From now on, we are going to depart somewhat from the concrete and jaunt into the abstract. So to mean every detail is not going to be presented with a citation. This has to be the case as we are literally digging into information that has been intentionally encoded to maintain its secrets for millennium. Thus, it follows, in order to decode this information you must simply judge it yourself at face value. I am digging from a lifetime of information acquired through extensive reading, dedicated study, and empirical observations. I am presenting my dissertation in the form of this infomentary feature film as I have no other way of explaining it justly. The nuanced questions that are not addressed here, have been excluded as a matter of choice for sake of time. This is my life's work and I am offering it to you freely to give you a chance at true salvation in the Messiah Yeshua, the Son of the true God, Yahweh. Further, I am doing this to defeat my enemies. These are the enemies of my God, and they have kept you enslaved by keeping this information hidden. Thus it is my mission to expose them, thereby taking their power off of you and, it is my hope, freeing you from enslavement to this system. When the first degree of entered apprentice is taken by an initiate, the meeting is always set during the night on some such date as the first Friday of the month, perhaps dependent on the moon phase. Lodges usually do not have windows, and if they do, there is a central chamber in the lodge not exposed to sunlight. If the lodge does have windows, they are covered with thick curtains. The lodge in my hometown was attached to, and above the town funeral parlor. This is frequently the case as the Masons have an obsession with death. Its entrance is a small nondescript door on the back side of the building. Unless you were looking for it, you would never notice. It is very minor in comparison to the regional lodges, or other lodges such as those at the state capitals. The ceremony itself will take place around midnight and usually, with more than one initiate. The first several degrees of Masonry are public information. The information becomes scarcer and scarcer as you ascend the degrees. All information ceases after the first handful. Since the Masons are entrenched in the government, and they are such arrogant braggers, they hide their secrets right in plain sight. They believe that they are so clever that no one outside of the craft will be able to decipher their codes. Therefore, the information can always be found at the library, which just so happens to be across the street from the lodge. If a Mason writes a book, almost simultaneously, it appears in the library upon its publication. This photo is of a Mason dressed up exactly as required for the first degree. He is dressed up as a medieval heretic on the way to the gallows, and direct indication of the heretical occultism of the craft. A heretic is a professed believer who maintains religious opinions contrary to those accepted by his or her church or rejects doctrines prescribed by that church. Occult as defined by Merriam-Webster, to shut off from view or exposure, or not revealed, secret. Thus, not only are the Freemasons an occult due to their oaths of hiding their secret lore, they are also members of occultism. A result of the term occult science is referring to astrology, alchemy and natural magic, which they are heavily involved in. This usage of the term occult sciences gives new insight into the true meaning of Scientology, since occultism is literally the scientific pursuit of studying the paranormal. Now we can easily depart from what they say Scientology is, and empirically evaluate the manifestations of their religion, as opposed to judging it based on what they say it is. It would be absurd to trust what they say when they flatly state they intently conceal their secrets. The only way to find out what these secrets are, is to join them. That, my friends, is the definition of occult. A cult is a quasi-religious organization using devious psychological techniques to gain and control adherents. Throughout the 20th century, the term occultism was used interchangeably to refer to a range of esoteric traditions such as spiritualism, theosophy, anthroposophy, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and New Age. All of these and more, including Scientology and Freemasonry, are provably identical to one another. Now that the setting is in place, let's return to the first degree Mason attire and its symbolism. Each initiate chooses the length of the noose tied around their neck. Whether they choose it to be longer or shorter reveals something about their psyche. The first concept that sticks out is the presentation of opposites, specifically the conveyance of mirror imagery. The left pant leg is rolled up while the right sleeve is rolled down. The right pant leg is rolled down and the left sleeve is rolled up. This forms a sort of yin and yang concept, making an infinity circular motion as seen by the viewer. Notice this hand gesture makes a semicircle near the crotch. By doing this here it conveys a semi-erotic pose, especially combined with his exposed left nipple. His right foot is slightly forward, indicating the first step into Freemasonry. The man is blindfolded or hoodwinked. What happens next? He is led into the ceremonial chamber room by the conductor, who is a higher-ranked member of the craft and is probably the one who introduced him to the group, making him the handler. The initiate will then be led in circumambulation around the chamber. Each step is dictated and the pattern around the central drawing board is precise. The layout of the lodge is very important, of incredible importance to the occult are cardinal directions. The opening of the entryway is in the west, the master of the lodge is in the east representing the sun. The movements and positions of objects and persons around him represent planetary objects. His chair will be the highest, only a little lower will be two chairs of equal height representing the treasurer or some such titled slightly lower ranked masons than the master. The differences in elevation of the chairs are subtle, but signify the rankings and give recognition above the everyday masons. Subtleties are the trademark of the occult. While some of what you are seeing is symmetrical, upon closer inspection you will find that object placement skews the symmetry. For example, there is only one chair here as opposed to being another chair here. These candlesticks are different, one is taller than the other, and the same thing here. This mirrors the outfit of the first-degree initiate candidate. Sigmund Freud is most notably attributed to the discovery of the subconscious mind and its ability to affect conscious actions. The conscious mind is unaware of the underlying drives behind their decision-making. An Austrian, Freud, is known as the father of psychoanalysis, but this attribution can be extended to the field of psychology as a whole. The time frame of the advent of psychology was in the late 19th century and early 20th century. Freud codified a level of the subconscious as the symbolic mind, and it follows, this symbolic mind is interconnected with the id. The id is the part of the mind which holds all of humankind's most basic and primal instincts. It is within these primal instincts that the most powerful motivator of humanity lies, the libido. Within these mechanisms many abstract forms arise such as, beauty and therefore, ugly. Greater than 60% of communication is nonverbal. It follows that nonverbal communication, hand gestures, voice inflection, and most importantly, physiological positioning, meaning the distance between sender and receiver, leaning forward or backward, touching, cleavage, and facial expressions, convey the bulk of communique. The result of this phenomenon is that we can infer that the symbolic mind remains within our subconscious until we become overtly aware of the symbolism, and this is actually more powerful than the conscious mind. In Freudian psychology, the symbolic mind will substitute the actual primal desires of the id in dreams, so that in dreams instead of an actual male genitalia materializing, which according to Freud, is one of the most common symbols during nocturnal visions, but it could be portrayed by any long upright objects such as sticks, umbrellas, poles, trees, or the Washington Monument. That said, the subconscious mind is not only active while dreaming, it is also active during the hours humans are awake. The bulk of Sigmund Freud's work is centered on the psycho-developmental stages of the mind, with the centric concept being penis envy. In essence, to Freud, all of his psychoanalytic theory comes down to whether or not you have a penis and how big or small it is.
Who thought of the name Titanic? Was it you, Bruce?
Well, yes, actually. I wanted to convey sheer size, and size means stability, luxury, and above all, strength.
Do you know of Dr. Freud, Mr. Ismay? His ideas about the male preoccupation with size might be of particular interest to you. Excuse me.
Freud, who is he? Is he a passenger?
According to this Masonic website, Sigmund Freud was a Mason. However, one thing that we often debate is causality. For example, on a coordinate plane, we have our dependent variable y being changed by our independent variable x. X can be any string of information that we choose to assign. However, our goal is to uncover whether the independent variable X is actually altering the dependent variable Y, or do we need to switch our independent and dependent variables because Y is really causing X. For an example from philosophy, let's say our dependent variable is the ocean and our independent variable is precipitation. Is it because we have an ocean that water evaporates and then causes it to rain, or is it because of rain that we have an ocean? Or you may have heard the postulate, what came first, the chick or the egg? In reality, the answer is simple, 'cause God. On an coordinate plane, we actually find that the answer is really neither that X causes Y, or Y causes X, but rather it is the intersection of both functions that is the true answer. So to mean, it is not that since Freud was a Mason that he realized the Washington Monument is actually representative of a phallus. Instead, it is the case that all obelisks going back to time immemorial are representations of a phallus, and today, psychologists are credited for its discovery. This is also the case for mathematics. Humans did not invent the principles of mathematics, we discovered them. At the same time that science and empiricism proliferated after Aristotelian logic was rediscovered at the onset of the Renaissance, so too, occultism proliferated and came to exist in its modern forms such as Scientology and Freemasonry, etc. What we are really talking about here is simple. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. When we view anything, specifically a piece of art, our minds are searching to uncover patterns within the material to give meaning to what the mind is seeing. Our minds have a built-in sense, that is part of our automatic nervous system, frequently referred to as the sixth sense. It is where our balance and orientation mechanism are located within the inner ear. This is the sense that manifests its presence, when you stand close to a tall building and look up, seeking the top with your eyes, you will likely become off balance. While this mechanism exists within our inner ear, it is in synchronized communication with our visual recognition as well. Compulsorily these two work in tandem to find balance and order from our vision. It will bring disorder into order so it can send a logical message to the mind. For example, if you are laying down, your mind will understand that your vision is sideways and simply decode the information as such. But if what you are seeing, like this image now, is sideways and your body is not, your mind will run into conflict as it tries to make sense of the imagery that is defying the laws of physics, and is therefore illogical. When it comes to Masonic drawing boards and occult art, we can pretty much relegate the symbolism of the material to generic conceptions. By properly applying the concepts we've been mentioning, it becomes easy to decipher the hidden symbology of the occult, as it is rather linear. In fact, by maintaining a linear approach as our cipher protocol, we will easily decipher the entirety of their system.